Chaos had become the new normal at Forrester Creations. Deadlines were closing in, designs were being finalized, models rehearsed, press coordinated, and the biggest fashion showcase of the year, Forrester's exclusive runway return in Los Angeles, was only days away. In the midst of it all stood Ridge Forrester, the face of the brand, the visionary, the icon. But behind the confident eyes and commanding presence, something was unraveling. It had started quietly. A dizzy spell during a meeting. Blurred vision at his desk when reviewing sketches. A hand pressed subtly to the wall for balance when no one was looking. Ridge was a master at performance, and he used every ounce of his discipline to hide the weakness clawing at him. No one noticed. Or so he thought. He brushed off the episodes as exhaustion. He'd been pushing himself too hard, burning at both ends. He told himself it was stress, dehydration, too many nights staring at mood boards. But deep down, he knew it was more. And after a particularly jarring collapse in his office, one that left him briefly slumped in his chair, breath short, vision darkening, he knew he couldn't lie to himself anymore. He made a discreet appointment with a specialist using a private alias. No family, no press, no staff. Just a simple checkup he never intended anyone to know about. The results came 2 days later. Ridge didn't speak when the doctor said it. He didn't blink. He didn't scream. He just stared at the scan. At the small mass on his liver, and listened as the words early-stage cancer broke the illusion of invincibility he had clung to for years. It wasn't terminal. Yet, it was treatable, possibly curable. But it required immediate attention, tests, and likely surgery. The doctor warned him about the risks of delaying treatment. Ridge simply stood up, shook his hand, and said he had a fashion show to finish first. That same day, Thomas Forrester returned to town. He arrived unannounced, suitcase in hand, leaner and calmer after time away in Tokyo working with international brands. His return was supposed to be a surprise for the runway show. He wanted to show his father he was ready, grounded, and serious about returning to the company. But what he found instead was unsettling. On his second night back, while searching for a pattern folder in Ridge's office, Thomas stumbled upon a sealed manila envelope tucked in a leather-bound notebook. It was addressed to RF, but wasn't locked or hidden. Curiosity got the better of him. He opened it. Inside were test results, a medical file, lab work, imaging, and stamped at the top, diagnosis, hepatocellular carcinoma, early stage. Thomas froze. The room spun. For a moment, he couldn't process what he was seeing. Then it hit like a freight train. His father, Ridge Forrester, had cancer, and hadn't told anyone. The next morning, Thomas confronted Ridge behind closed doors. His tone wasn't angry. It was broken. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ridge didn't deny it. He simply sat at his desk, staring out the window, and said, "Because I need this show to go on. I need to be strong for just one more week." Thomas paced the room. "You need treatment, Dad. You can't just pretend this isn't happening." Ridge's voice dropped. "I'm not pretending. I'm delaying. There's a difference." Thomas pushed harder. "Does Mom know? Does Brooke?" "No," Ridge snapped. "And I want it to stay that way. I'm not dragging them into this. Not now. I've made peace with my choices. I'm asking you for 1 week, just 1 week, let me finish this show. Then I'll face it. I promise." Thomas hesitated. The plea in Ridge's voice was raw, and the stakes were crushing. If he told the truth, it would devastate Taylor. It would shatter Brooke. The press would catch wind. Investors would panic. The entire brand could unravel just days before their most important show in years. But if he stayed silent and Ridge collapsed, or worse, before the show's end, it wouldn't just be a scandal. It would be betrayal. He agreed. Reluctantly. 1 week, he said. Then we tell them everything. But secrets never stay quiet in Los Angeles. Especially not at Forrester. Within days, whispers began. A seamstress overheard Ridge vomiting in the executive bathroom. An assistant noticed the tremor in his hands during a fitting. Katie Logan saw him gripping the edge of a table, eyes closed, face pale. She asked if he was okay. He brushed it off. Just tired. But she didn't believe him. Meanwhile, Taylor sensed something else. Ridge had been more intense, more nostalgic. He had told her he was proud of her, that she had always been his anchor, that she was stronger than she thought. The way he said it felt final, like a farewell in disguise. Brooke, too, noticed changes. Ridge had been distant yet emotional. He had hugged her longer than usual. He called RJ out of the blue just to say he loved him. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping. The night before the show, Ridge collapsed backstage. No audience. No press. Just a handful of staff and Thomas, who caught him before he hit the floor. They rushed him into a side room, locked the door, and gave him water. Ridge refused to go to the hospital. "I'll be fine," he insisted. "The show goes on." Thomas begged him to stop. "This could kill you." "I need to finish," Ridge gasped. "I need to leave something behind that's more than fear." Thomas helped him stand. Ridge pulled it off, barely. He walked the runway's edge during rehearsal. He gave final notes. He shook hands with sponsors. When the show began, no one in the audience suspected anything. The music boomed. The lights flared. The models dazzled. The new collection was a masterpiece, clean, bold, timeless. Ridge sat in the front row, next to Brooke and Taylor. His vision blurred. His chest hurt. But he smiled. When the final model took her bow and the crowd stood to their feet in thunderous applause, Ridge rose barely. He walked onto the stage. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. It was Forrester magic. Then he collapsed. Right there under the lights. Gasps. Screams. Chaos. Brooke knelt beside him, shouting his name. Taylor's hands trembled as she tried to stabilize him. Thomas pushed people back, calling for help. The stage that had just crowned a triumph became a crisis point. Ridge was rushed to the hospital. That night, everything unraveled. The truth spilled. The cancer. The secrecy. The collapse. Brooke felt betrayed. "You let me sit beside you while you were dying?" Taylor broke down. "You asked me to believe in us again? Was it just a goodbye?" Thomas blamed himself. "I should have told them. I should have stopped him." The doctors worked quickly. There was hope, but only if they acted now. As Ridge was prepped for emergency treatment, he looked up at both women, Taylor on one side, Brooke on the other, and whispered, "I didn't want to choose. I just wanted to give something beautiful. One last time." The surgery began at dawn. Outside, the world waited. For the man. For the legacy. For the heartbeat of Forrester Creations. And as the sun rose over Los Angeles, one truth remained. Ridge Forrester may have tried to hide the battle. But the war had only just begun. The waiting room at University Medical Center buzzed with tension that no amount of sterile white walls or calming music could soften. Brooke sat motionless, her fingers interlocked, thumbs nervously twisting over each other as she stared at the closed doors beyond which Ridge was fighting for his life. Across from her, Taylor stood with arms folded tight across her chest, her eyes red but determined. Neither woman spoke. They didn't need to. The air between them pulsed with shared fear, shared heartbreak, and a growing storm of unspoken questions. Thomas paced back and forth along the corridor, unable to sit still. His guilt gnawed at him with every step. He had promised to keep Ridge's secret for 1 week. He had sworn to wait until after the show. But the cost of that silence now lay in an operating room with tubes down his throat and a surgeon fighting to cut out what could no longer be ignored. Steffi arrived not long after, eyes wide with disbelief, her voice shaking as she confronted her brother. "How long have you known?" she demanded. "How could you let him keep this from us?" Thomas stammered. He made me promise. He needed to finish the show, but his words only enraged her more. He needed help, Thomas. He needed us. Meanwhile, the media was already circling like vultures. News had leaked within hours. Asterisk, Forrester Fashion Week ends in emergency. Ridge Forrester collapses on stage. Asterisk rumors spread fast. The press speculated everything from stroke to substance abuse. No one outside the family knew the truth, but it was only a matter of time before someone found the hospital records or someone from the staff spoke up. Inside the surgical wing, the doctors moved quickly. Ridge's condition was critical, but not beyond hope. The tumor was located close to vital structures, but operable. Complications were many. Internal bleeding, sudden drops in oxygen, irregular heart rhythms, but Ridge fought. He had always fought, not for survival but for control. Now his body resisted the invasion of scalpels and machines, trying to hold on as the cancer threatened to take more than just his strength, it threatened to take everything. Hours passed. Night fell. The show ended, but the real performance, the fight for life, dragged into the dark hours. When the lead surgeon finally walked into the waiting area, the family rose like one body, bracing for impact. "We managed to remove most of the mass," the doctor explained. "But Ridge has lost a significant amount of blood. We've stabilized him for now, but the next 48 hours are critical. He's in a medically induced coma. He may not wake up." The words shattered what little resolve Brooke had left. She covered her mouth, turned away, collapsing into silent sobs. Taylor steadied herself against the wall, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer or desperate bargaining. Steffi gripped her brother's hand, both of them shaking. They were allowed in, one by one. Brooke went first. The sight of Ridge, pale and still, tubes running from every direction, machines hissing and beeping in place of breath and voice, it broke her. She knelt beside his bed, tears trailing down her cheeks. "You always do this," she whispered. "You carry everything alone. You try to protect everyone but yourself." She rested her hand on his. "You said you wanted to give us something beautiful. Ridge, you are the beautiful thing. Don't you dare leave me." Taylor went in next. She sat in the chair by his side and stared at the man she had loved her whole life. "You think this was noble," she said quietly. "But it was selfish." Her voice cracked. "You should have told me. You should have let me carry this with you." She leaned forward, brushing her hand through his hair. "You don't get to disappear. Not again. Not like this. You've survived too much to let this win." For the next 2 days, the hospital became the center of the Forrester universe. Donna brought food but couldn't eat. Katie stayed with Brooke every night. Eric, devastated, showed up silently, sat beside Ridge, and said nothing, just held his son's hand like he had when Ridge was a boy afraid of thunderstorms. RJ returned from college, shell-shocked, sitting beside his unconscious father for hours, quietly reading old childhood letters Ridge had once written him. And then came the press conference. The family had to get ahead of the story. With whispers of scandal growing louder, Thomas stood before the cameras with a prepared statement. He revealed the truth, not the full extent, but enough. That Ridge was ill. That he had collapsed due to complications from a private medical condition. That the family was rallying around him and asked for privacy. But behind the scenes, things were unraveling. Hope questioned Thomas's silence. "If you knew, why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "You let everyone pretend like nothing was wrong." Even Zend, who idolized Ridge, felt betrayed. "We could have helped. We could have taken some of the pressure off him." Internally, Forrester Creations faced turbulence. Investors were nervous. Clients demanded assurance. Ridge's sudden absence threw operations into confusion. But Eric stepped in, steady and focused, declaring, "Ridge may be down, but the house he built will stand." Then, late on the second night, a tremor. Ridge stirred. Monitors beeped erratically. Nurses rushed in. Taylor was in the room at the time and saw his eyes flicker, then open, just a crack. His lips moved. No sound. But she leaned in. "It's me," she said. "You're safe. You made it." Ridge blinked, slow and deliberate. Then mouthed one word. "Brooke." Taylor stood frozen. Later that morning, Brooke was brought in. When Ridge's eyes fluttered open again, it was her hand he gripped first. "You're here," he murmured, voice rough and dry. She cried. "You scared the hell out of me." He smiled weakly. "I'm not done yet." Over the next week, Ridge's recovery was steady, if slow. The tumor was gone, but the damage lingered. There would be treatment, chemotherapy, months of weakness, and a new kind of war. One without runway lights or applause. But he was alive. And with him, the truth. Ridge sat with Brooke and Taylor together. No walls. No performances. "I lied to protect you," he said. "But all I did was hurt everyone." He looked at Taylor. "You deserved honesty." Then at Brooke. "You deserved more than a bedside confession." They listened. They didn't forgive easily. But for the first time in years, Ridge wasn't hiding behind emotion or ego. He was simply human. And that, at last, was enough. But secrets, once cracked open, never sleep again. And as Ridge healed, somewhere across town, a leaked hospital photo landed on a journalist's desk. One showing Ridge Forrester unconscious, with a confidential patient ID still visible. And once that image hit the press, the storm would start all over again.